The church was quiet, too quiet. The tiny white casket at the front looked so small it made my chest cave in just to glance at it. My hands shook as I held the folded program, my eyes swollen from nights of crying that had stolen whatever strength I had left. My son, my only boy, had been lowered into the ground before he ever had a chance to live. And even in death, the ones who should have stood by me weren't there. Every time the door creaked open during the service, a part of me looked up, hoping maybe my parents had come, hoping maybe they'd sit in the back row, even if just for appearances. But the doors always revealed strangers, neighbors, or co-workers offering quiet condolences. My parents never came. My sister never came. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The pew beside me felt too empty, too heavy, as if their absence was louder than any organ playing. When the priest closed the service, I held my baby's photograph in trembling fingers, whispering an apology I knew he couldn't hear. "I'm sorry you had to leave this world without love, at least from them." Tears blurred the image until it looked like he was fading again. I stepped outside into the raw gray of the day, the air thick with drizzle, people murmuring around me. Some avoided eye contact. They didn't know what to say. Others hugged me, saying, "Stay strong," like words could patch the hole in my chest. And that's when my phone buzzed. It was my sister, Lindsay. The screen lit up with her name and a selfie she had taken in a glittering dress. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice came sharp, careless, almost annoyed. "So, is it done yet? The funeral thing? Mom said you made it all dramatic." My throat closed. He was my son. He deserved more than this silence. She laughed, an ugly sound that cracked like glass. "Oh, come on. It's just a baby. Everyone moves on. But you know what doesn't wait? My wedding. You remember that trust fund Dad put in your kid's name? Yeah, we need it. Mom says it's only fair. I'm alive." He's not. The world tilted under me. My knees locked, the drizzle turning colder on my skin. "You're asking me this while I'm standing outside his funeral?" Another laugh. This time, Dad's voice cut in over the line. "Don't act like we're monsters. That money was always meant for family. You think wasting it on a grave matters more than celebrating your sister's future? Get it through your head. Your baby's gone. Your sister's life is what matters now." I stood frozen on the church steps, my son's photograph pressed to my chest, rain sliding down my cheeks mixing with tears. Their words pierced deeper than the loss itself, as if my grief wasn't valid, as if my boy had been nothing but a placeholder to them. People around me stared, catching enough of my broken whispers into the phone to understand. Some turned away, embarrassed for me. Others glared at me like I should hang up, should protect myself. But I couldn't move. My own parents had just erased my child's existence with a sentence. The call ended with Lindsay's smug voice. "We'll be at your place in a week. Get the paperwork ready. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The line clicked dead. I sank onto the cold stone steps, clutching my son's picture to my chest like it was all I had left. And in that moment, something inside me twisted. My grief hardened, my sorrow curdled into something sharper. I whispered to the wind, to the rain, to the ghost of my little boy. "They think I'm weak. They think you meant nothing. But I'll make them remember you. I'll make them choke on every word they just said." The storm didn't answer, but my own heart did. And it told me their time was coming. The week dragged like a knife over raw skin. Each night I fell asleep with my son's photo clutched in my hands, waking in cold sweats from dreams of his cries, only to remember there would never be another sound from him. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, except for the low hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of pipes. But silence didn't last. The 7th day came, and with it the pounding at my door. I opened it to see them. All three, standing there as if they owned the place. My mother in her fur coat despite the mild weather, my father with his gold watch glinting under the hallway light, and Lindsay holding a stack of wedding magazines like she was starring in her own reality show. Mom didn't even wait for me to invite them in. She brushed past me, wrinkling her nose as if my apartment was beneath her. God, Emma, you really live like this? No wonder you couldn't keep a husband. Or a child. Her words were a dagger shoved between my ribs. I gripped the doorknob so hard my knuckles turned white, forcing my legs not to buckle. Dad stepped in next, his voice booming like he was delivering a business lecture. We don't have time for dramatics. We're here for the paperwork. The trust is under your control, but let's be clear, it belongs to the family. Your sister's wedding is next month, and that money will secure the kind of future she deserves. Lindsay dropped it into my armchair like she owned it, flipping a page in her magazine, smirking. Don't drag this out, Emma. You've had your pity party. Time to do something useful for once in your life. I stared at them, my heart hammering in my chest. The nerve of them. My baby wasn't even cold in the ground, and they were here demanding his inheritance, his only legacy, like it was theirs to split. You weren't at his funeral, I whispered, voice shaking but sharp. Not even for an hour, not even a flower. And now you show up to take what belonged to him? Mom rolled her eyes, pouring herself water from the pitcher on my counter. What's the point of sitting in a church crying over a baby who barely lived? That money could actually help someone. Your sister's wedding will be remembered. Your child won't. The room tilted. My vision blurred with rage. Don't you dare say his name like he was nothing. Dad waved his hand like he was swatting away a fly. We raised you. We fed you, and you turned out like this. Always ungrateful. That money isn't yours, Emma. You're just a custodian. It was meant for family needs, and Lindsay's wedding is the family's biggest need right now. Lindsay leaned forward, her smirk growing crueler. Let's not pretend, Emma. You can't even keep a baby alive. Maybe I deserve that trust because at least I won't waste it. Something inside me snapped. My breath came in ragged bursts. My nails dug into my palms until they hurt. They thought they could stomp on his memory, erase him from existence, and walk away richer. I stood tall, staring each of them down. You'll get nothing from me. Not a cent, not even a signature. Mom laughed coldly, setting her glass down with a sharp clink. Then you'll be forced. We've already spoken to a lawyer. If you don't comply, we'll sue you for the trust. And trust me, Emma, no court is going to side with a broke single mother who can't even provide a proper home. Her words felt like slaps, but I held my ground. Go ahead, try me, because the only thing you're going to prove is what kind of monsters you really are. Dad stepped closer, his cologne stinging my nose, his shadow swallowing me whole. He lowered his voice, but it still sliced like glass. You think anyone cares about your sob story? You were always a failure, Emma, always second best. Now be smart for once and sign the papers before we destroy you. I locked eyes with him, my jaw trembling but unbroken. You already destroyed me. But what you don't realize, what you'll never see coming, is that you can't destroy someone who has nothing left to lose. For the first time, I saw it, a flicker in his eyes. Not fear, not yet, but uncertainty. They left my apartment that night in a storm of slammed doors and muttered insults, convinced they had cornered me, convinced I would bow. But as their footsteps faded down the hall, my chest heaved with something new. Resolve. I looked at my son's photo on the table, his soft face, his tiny fingers, his whole future stolen, and I whispered through clenched teeth, They think they can erase you. They think they can take what was yours. But I will make them remember you in a way they'll never forget. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder rolling like a promise. And in that thunder, I began to plan. The courthouse steps gleamed in the morning sun, buzzing with reporters, attorneys, and people who thrived on gossip. My parents had done exactly what they promised. They filed a lawsuit against me for my dead son's trust. They didn't come quietly either. They strutted into the courthouse days earlier, making sure the community knew they were reclaiming what was rightfully the family's. They underestimated one thing. I wasn't walking into this fight empty-handed. Inside the courtroom, the air was thick with tension. My parents sat smugly at their table, Dad in a tailored suit, Mom's pearls gleaming under the lights, Lindsay powdering her nose like she was the star of a show. They whispered to each other, chuckling, while I sat alone at my table with nothing but a folder of documents in front of me. Dad leaned back in his chair, smirking at me across the aisle. "Ready to lose everything, Emma?" Mom tilted her head, her voice syrupy and venomous at once. "You should have signed when you had the chance. Now we'll take it all and show everyone what a selfish, useless mother you are." The judge entered, and silence swept the room. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for my son's memory. Their lawyer started, painting me as unstable, reckless, and unfit to manage the trust. He argued the money should go to a more valuable family cause, my sister's wedding. Each word made the gallery shift uncomfortably, but my parents beamed like they were untouchable. When it was my turn, I stood slowly. My voice shook at first, but grew steadier with each word. "You've heard their story," I said, pointing to my parents. "Now, let me tell you the truth." I laid the first stack of papers on the table, the receipts of every hospital visit I had made with my baby, how I drained my paycheck to cover treatments when insurance failed us, how I skipped meals to make sure he had what little comfort I could provide. I read aloud doctor's notes that described my dedication, my sleepless nights, and my refusal to give up on him. Then I held up the funeral bill. I paid for this alone, and while I stood at his casket, they were nowhere. They didn't come, they didn't call, they didn't even send a flower. Gasps rippled through the gallery. My parents shifted uneasily, their smiles cracking. I pulled out the next piece of evidence. Screenshots. Texts my sister had sent me, bragging about how the money should be hers because it's just a baby. I read them aloud, each word echoing through the courtroom. "It's just a baby. He doesn't matter. My wedding does." Lindsay's face went pale. Mom hissed under her breath, "Emma, stop this right now." I didn't stop. I showed bank transfers proving they had used family funds before, for gambling, for luxury trips, for Lindsay's shopping sprees. And then I turned to the judge, my voice breaking but strong. My son didn't get to grow up. He didn't get to breathe long enough to defend his own name. That trust was his, and now the only thing left of him is what they're trying to steal. They erased him in life. They skipped his funeral and death. If you let them take this money, they will succeed in erasing him completely. The room was silent except for the sound of Lindsay's shallow breathing. The judge's gavel struck once. "Enough! I've heard all I need to hear." My parents tried to protest, but the decision came swift and sharp. The trust remained untouched, in my control. Every word of their lies had collapsed under the weight of truth. The gallery broke into whispers, many shaking their heads at my parents. Some even muttered, "Monsters." Dad slammed his hand on the table, his face red. "You'll regret this, Emma." I stood tall, my hands no longer shaking. "No, you'll regret underestimating me. You'll regret erasing your grandson for a wedding that no one will remember." Mom lunged forward, but people in the gallery pulled back from her like she was poison. Lindsay's mascara ran down her cheeks as she whispered, "This wasn't supposed to happen." I walked out of that courthouse with my son's photo clutched in my hand, my head high. Behind me, my parents faced not just the loss of their lawsuit, but the loss of their standing in the community. No one applauded them anymore. No one cared for their excuses. Outside, the cameras swarmed. Someone asked me, "How do you feel, Emma?" I looked into the lens, my eyes sharp, my baby's face pressed against my chest in the photo. I feel like my son finally got justice, and I feel like they'll never escape what they've done. For once, the storm wasn't on me. It was on them, and it would follow them forever. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.